Hi everybody. So real estate in Canada, will we be actually affected? I hear it more and more. It's not only the people in the middle class or first time buyers, it's everybody, right? Like you talk to a millionaire and they'll tell you straight up, look, I don't see myself making money in Canada, right? In 2025, will we see a boom or a bust market? There are definitely two different tunes that are synced at the same time. So, but however, there are indications out there, right? Like tariffs from United States, all that pressure. And I just spoke to somebody this morning regarding the 90s recession and where we're at today. And they're claiming that it does feel identical. In fact, it feels the same, but there's one missing component. And I would like to get into that. But before I get into that missing component that actually crashed the 90s, let's just take a step back and see where we're at, right? So I believe that these tariffs, like most say, you know what, like, yes, Canada will be impacted, but so it's United States and all of that stuff. So be it, fine. But we will be impacted, and that real estate market will definitely see an effect, and it could be devastating for many people. Now, if you're looking at the market, that bull trap market, and I have talked about this on my channel and stuff like that, it has been built up for years. It feels like it, right? Like, so we have seen the prices go up, and then we got to a point where it was just no limit. Like, everybody believed and thought it's never going to stop, right? So the first things that gave out is the Toronto condo market, or condo market in general, right? So that kind of like gave out steam and all of that stuff, and now we see that people are suffering. Now, that condo market is tied to a market that already exists, right? Like, you know, somebody's matrimonial home or somebody's home that they live in and stuff like that, and they kept tapping back into that equity of that home in order to invest further. And, you know, one outlet was, you know, maybe Bitcoin, maybe condos, maybe whatever, I don't know, maybe they were buying cars, maybe they were, I don't know, but it was against a house because that house has proven to bring them a lot of equity, fast, reliable, and it was a secure place that they can walk into a bank and just say, hey, this is my name, give me, and they'll give it to you. So, but the build-up now, we're getting into the fear stage, and I speak to people in many different layers of society, many different layers when it comes to the job earnings and all of that stuff, and I hear it more and more. It's not only the people in the middle class or first time buyers, it's everybody, right? Like you talk to a millionaire and they'll tell you straight up, look, I don't see myself making money in Canada, right? Like it's either very difficult to do, or like there's really no profit margins anymore. They don't almost exist, right? So when you hear that at that level, it makes me wonder. I'm like, oh my gosh, if you cannot make money with millions of dollars, how can a middle class person or a first time buyer dream of succeeding, right? So that's that catch. Now, what is everybody hoping for? And that's the bull trap I just mentioned a few seconds ago. And the bull trap is like, okay, so we're still in winter time. There's less activity. You know, we went from last year, 2024, we have seen the worst numbers ever since the 90s. And they claim, hold on a second, but that's December, because we have obviously, you know, the holidays and all of that stuff, and the numbers are weak, and that's how it works. So the real estate picks up obviously in springtime. All right, so you have a valid point, right? But if the supply gets cranked to that extent that exceeds the buyers in a market, then we're back at square one, right? Because then whatever you do with interest rates, and even if you cut them to zero, which I don't think it will happen, they did it, you know, during the pandemic and stuff like that. I think we got as low as 0.25, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that they will make that. I don't want to call it a mistake, but that judgment this time. So, but let's say they get back to around 1% or 1%, right? Like, or low 1%. Like, will that impact the buyer? Will it make more room? 100%. Right? 100% it will be better. What else can they do? The amortization, right? Like, so they can say, look, we're gonna give you the amortization for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, whatever, right? Will that make a difference? 100%. You might never pay off your home ever, but at least your payments will be low and you can basically rent your own house forever. All right, so, but what makes that last component, that breaking point in the last component, is unemployment. So if we, like everything else is set up, the stage for a crash is here, right? So we have the uncertainty, we have the fear, the supply is creeping up. We have all of the elements right here, right now. The only component that is missing is the unemployment. So when the unemployment starts to creep up and when people start to lose their jobs, which will happen with the tariffs that are coming up and all that setup, because it's just common sense, right? Like if we cannot provide the same volume, or if it costs more, the service to provide the same value, automatically you sink, right? So people are going to be laid off all over the place within all the provinces and whatnot. Some are going to be more impacted than others. But if you have that, and then you have someone that gets, let's say, laid off, and they made $150,000 today, right? The chances of them replicating the same amount of dollars within a new employment, I believe it will be next to impossible, right? They might get a job, but it's not going to pay them 150. It might pay them 80 or 90, right? But is it going to be sufficient enough to carry that debt ratio that they have piled up, right? And speaking to investors and you know, like this morning I had another conversation with somebody that bought a beautiful penthouse in downtown Toronto, right? $2 million, right? So now that same penthouse is valued, you know, 30-40% less, right? And they have to be in the market for a long time to sell it. So you cannot sell that penthouse within 2 weeks, I am assuming, right? So it'll take months and months. And who would want to buy that? That's another question. How can, you know, like like that product needs to be serviced. Who is it geared to? Right? Like the shoebox condos, the investors condos. Who is it geared to? At the time, the developers, the builders, and everybody else had a plan to build more units, to build smaller units, Airbnb it, lease it, rent it to immigrants, students, whatever. But everybody's gone now. So most of these guys are stuck with these shoebox condos that we cannot even sell for any price, right? They bought it at 600,000. If I take you to a 420 square foot condo and I tell you, look, you can purchase it for $399, you'll tell me, no, man, it's like a walk-in closet with a hallway attached to it, right? So because people don't see value anymore. And whenever you have the situation where people don't see value or they can cash flow or whatever, then that's an issue. Now, another problem in any recession or depression or a downfall or a market, that we will have a huge issues, out of proportional issues, is the actual cash flow, right? So every family, every household has a threshold, right? Which, they need $8,000 at minimum in order to survive for that month, as an example, right? So that consists of mortgages, taxes, insurances, or whatever it is, right? So they have that, okay? So if they cannot provide, or if they cannot make that $8,000 cash flow, then we're in trouble, right? So people were in trouble for a long time already, for months. You can even claim years now, right? With the huge increases in mortgage payments in 2022 and 2023 and all of that stuff, right? People had to dig into their savings and all of that stuff, right? So there's no more dipping. Nobody can dip anywhere anymore. It almost feels like it, right? So I speak to people and they're like, look, I'm closing on some units. I just cannot close. Like, I don't have, my cash flow cannot support that. So what are my options? So even with options of them leasing that particular unit, which could be also dangerous because it's not as reliable as it used to be, then they're stuck. They're like, oh my gosh, like, at least I want to reduce the impact, but still I have to pay out of pocket, right? So imagine if you have that, and then you have, if somebody has to renew their mortgage on their home, and most will, right? More than 50% of Canadians in 2025 and 2026 will renew their mortgage, right? So if you put all these elements down, so it's a perfect recipe, perfect blend for only one thing, and that is a recession, mild, in a depression, right? It all depends how far it tilts. It could tilt very severely, doesn't have to, but the way this is looking to me at this point, it's looking that it will be very severe. Now, people ask me, why do you make these videos? It's doom and gloom and all of that stuff. Agreed. So the only reason is that for some people, so they open up their mind or the vision of possibility, what could happen. They know they're in trouble. There's no question about that. They're in trouble. They know it. It's just, it's hard for them to actually give in, because either the ego, sorry, I don't want to get hit by a car here. Either the ego or something is not letting them give in. Maybe they're ashamed because their neighbors or their family members are going to say, oh my gosh, you could not, you could not make it happen or whatever. Like, there's so many different things. So screw all of that, right? It's you against you. So you have to make that call. And if it doesn't make sense, and if you're being impacted financially, mentally, and physically, get rid of it. Try to find a way, get rid of it, get back to square one, try to regroup and make it happen. This will take a while, right? Like, no economy or no slide down that we're going will be regenerated or retweaked or reboosted, ignite within a few months. And everybody seems to be hoping for that, right? Like, oh, next season, next spring, next year, next this, that. Like, you've been already stuck in this hole for years now, right? Like, it'll take you years by the time you get out of the hole, never mind make profit, right? So it's the dead horse theory. I want to make a video on that, by the way, but I hope you enjoyed this video so far. I hope you got some value out of that. And I want to hear your opinion. Please comment below, and I will see you in the next one.